Okay, sounds good.
Walked in. Yeah, you'll sit there. I'll sit here.
Just right here?
Yeah,
Good.
right
All
there.
right, amen. So I'm new at this. All right.
Okay.
Check 1, check 2.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. There you go. Amen. I wasn't an 8-year-old kid who was in school raising my hand talking about I want to be a drug addict or an alcoholic or I want to be a woman beater or I want to be anything, or go to prison and have 3 numbers. I didn't want that. My rock bottom was I didn't want to live anymore. That was my rock bottom. I think the drugs probably kept me alive in times when I'd have rather died.
Welcome to Echoes of Addiction. Echoes of Addiction is a deep personal exploration of how addiction impacts not only the individual but also the people who love them. The series begins with an interview with Steven Dees, who shares his journey through addiction and recovery. Through intimate conversations with his wife, sister, and mentor, this podcast uncovers the lasting consequences of addiction before, during, and after recovery. Their stories reveal that the struggle doesn't end with sobriety. It leaves an imprint on every relationship and every life stage. When was your earliest memory of being exposed to drugs?
I was exposed to drugs at a young age, possibly before, it was in our household when we were born. My mom and dad were both addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I can remember beer cans being around, roaches being around, smoking pot. So it was like, I seen that continuously. Me and my sister was laying on the bottom bunk with my other sister, and I was on the top bunk. My mom was laying in the bed. And one night I could hear my mom breathing erratically. And then I'd hear her quit breathing. So I'd get down and check on her. She'd get mad at me and make me get back on the bunk. But third time I'd done this, she was unresponsive. And so I sat there and watched them come in and give her CPR and put this bag on her face, pushing air in her lungs. And I was 5 years old. And in my mind, I guess I was numb. You know what I'm saying? I was in shock, didn't know what was going on. She came back home 3 days later. Us kids were grabbing hold of her. We were loving on her, and she was crying and saying, look, this ain't never going to happen again. And the very next day, she was gone. And I didn't see her till I was 12. So that's how I partnered with anger at a young age, because nobody else was really going to take care of us. And then when you see other kids with their parents, or you see other kids at school and they're getting picked up by mom, so you feel it, you know what I mean? So you're an outsider. And so anger was, I think, isolating myself and being angry took me, into going to prison when I was 18 years old.
I want to get into that when you went to prison when you're 18, but before that, your first kind of run-in was when you were 13. I
was 13.
Yes.
My first felony at 13 years old.
Yes, and can you tell us what happened?
Yes. My mom married a man that was in the military, ex-military. Big guy, 6'4", about 240 pounds. And I guess the state had come to her about child support, because I was in a orphanage, level 2 orphanage at this time.
Separate from your sisters?
Yes, they were actually living in Florida with my father at the time. And I chose not to live there because I was still waiting on my mom.
Okay. Mom was cool.
Yeah, it was. And so Mama come back to get me out of the orphanage. And when she did, she brought this man into our lives. And he called himself my father. And I never had nobody throw a football with me. I never had nobody teach me how to tie my shoes or ride a bike. Those kind of memories I never had. So it was good that this guy was going to take care of us, And it took about a year to get me out of the orphanage into their home. And then when I moved into the home, that's when the mask came off. There was still a lot of drugs, and he was a very violent man. He used to beat my mom up pretty bad. I can remember her eye being shut, One day, my mom and him got into it really bad, and he just sweat her eye shut. And he left the house, and my mom was crying, and she said, Steven, go get him. Just tell him that I'm sorry, and he can come home. And in my mind, I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. My mind was like, he's gone, thank God, let him stay, And but I went looking for him. And when I did, I found him at a place where he was drinking. And there was 2 guys there, him and another guy. And then they started getting me drunk. and got really plastered. And then he slapped me real hard in front of this guy. And when he did, it made the guy really nervous and kind of, a lot of anxiety. And he told us to leave pretty much. And so we had left. And then I was on my way up to the trailer where my mom was, and he had raped me in the woods. And I was already angry. I hated life. Told me if I told anybody that he would kill my mother and my stepsister. So I wouldn't tell nobody, But one day I got up and I was going to run away, and I got angry, and I started packing my stuff, and I started breaking the walls and breaking in the windows and stuff, and I burnt the house down, and that's when I got my first felony, arson. And that took me for 3 years to different places. I got my GED out of that, and to me, those places were safe, though, safer than anywhere I've been, because nobody was taking advantage of me. Nobody was beating me up. Nobody was making me feel bad, Because that guy, he tried to teach me how to box. We put the boxing gloves on. And at 13 years old, I'm not very big, but he knocked me out. I would wake up with these headaches and stuff. And then, I learned how to fight, but I learned how to take care of myself. And there was anger that I partnered with in that. So that was my first felony, arson. But it wasn't a bad thing as far as getting away from the house. When I got to a point to where the state came to me and said, hey, can we, we're done. We've done everything we could do. We're going to send you back to where your mom and your stepfather is, And I wouldn't go. I took off on the run. So I was on the run for a year and a half.
When you were 16?
16 years old. Yeah,
Okay.
I moved to Manchester, Ohio. Well, actually, it was in Newport and Covington. Met a girl, and then when she was 36 years old, she moved me in. I thought that was cool, right? And so we moved to Manchester, Ohio, and I stayed there with her for a little bit, and then that didn't work out. Then there was another girl, but I was really good at shooting pool. Don't know how I got good at shooting pool. Maybe being locked up as a juvenile, it was something I took on. But I could go into the bars in the back, shoot pool, and nobody would say anything about me being in there. I could drink a little beer or whatever. And one night, this guy, I don't know what I was thinking. He said, man, I know where there's some money at. And I was like, oh, cool, And he said it would be easy. He said nobody would be home. Everything would just, we'll let you know when nobody's home, and we'll just go up there and get it done. And I was a fool, and I fell for it, and I went. And when we got there was people home. And so a simple B&E turned into a aggravated burglary, robbery, and a kidnapping charge. And I had a 5 1/4, and a 3 to 15 year sentence in Mansfield, Ohio. Well, and that's where I started at, was Mansfield, Ohio. Then I went to Lancaster and Chillicothe. But what I want to say about that is that I didn't plan those things. It's not like I went out trying to be a robber or something like that. I think I got caught up in the moment. And when I said something, kind of overloaded it. Like when I said yes, I was like, can't back out now because, right. And went through with it, and it was something that I'm very embarrassed about because we scared those people. That was never my intention. My intention was that I was going to be home. And so I did 6 years, 9 months for that in prison. Any other questions?
I want to stick with kind of childhood.
Okay.
So your sister, Kimberly's here.
Yes.
What kind of was it like growing up with her? I know you got separated, but those days when you were together?
Yeah, we were actually living with my grandfather in an apartment, and we had a middle bedroom, my 2 sisters and I, and my mother, and then he had a back bedroom. And I don't recall anything happening as far as my grandfather and my sister, but I do know that things happened because we got took out of the family. We got took out of the household. And then we were flown to California to live with my mom's mom and her husband. And it was there that he was a pretty sick individual, and he would take pictures of me and her naked. And so we were taken out of that home and flown back to Ohio pretty quick. I can remember the day the police showed up at the door. I was standing right next to him, and they said, did you really think you can get away with this and get away from us? Because we had moved from one part of California to the other. And the next memory, I don't remember where they took us to. I don't remember anything but we were back in Ohio again that quick. And my sister, I didn't find out later on until what happened to my sister with my grandfather and stuff. But it seems like we were really exposed at a young age to a lot of sexual molestations or things that most kids shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah.
And that kind of had us going down a path, I guess, that led to the lifestyle we're living now. Well, not now, but the lifestyle we were living. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were born and raised in Ohio.
Yes.
You got taken away from your mother, went to California.
Yes.
Then you were brought back.
Yes.
When you were brought back, how long were you and your sister together before
We weren't together then. We were actually we were together in the Allen House, which is a level 1 orphanage. And so they had the younger kid. My sister was separated from us because she was the baby. And then my sister, she stayed with the girls that were her age. I stayed with the guys that were my age. And then somebody actually brought us into their home. It was a foster home. And inside the foster home, on the outside, everything looked really good. I mean, she worked for the church. She cooked. It was a private school. But for some reason, I could not get along with her. And it seems like we just butted heads a lot. And she loved Kim, and she really took Kim in and Kristen in and was raising them up. But my first time ever running away was in that home. She got real violent with me one day and hit me upside the head with a broomstick, and I pushed her down, and I took off on the run. And I was a young kid, and I found out that running away can get me away from things and get some attention to what's going on. So I don't want to talk bad about Miss Ranchall. I think that she's an awesome lady for bringing all 3 of us kids in. I think she was on the outside looking in. You know, hindsight's 20/20. I could see where she was struggling in her marriage. Her and her husband slept in different parts of the house, and they were very, they didn't have a lot of connection together. So she was going through her own things at that time. I think I was the brunt of that a little bit, but I wasn't easy neither. I had a lot of anger issues. I didn't know how to process some of my feelings the right way, so I'm sure I was hard.
Do you blame anyone? Because you didn't.
I did for a long time. And of course, when I was going through all this, I never looked at my life like I had it harder than anybody else because I've always seen other people having a harder time. And so my heart was always for them, right? And so when I got out of prison, I took the bull by the horns, and I got off parole, and then this girl got pregnant, and then I went to welding school. I took the bull, I just was doing really good. And when I found out she was pregnant, it changed my whole perception because when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a father that was a good father, a good provider. I wanted to be a good protector. I wanted to be that guy. And that was so, man, I'm fired up, And we'd get something out of layaway at Kmart on Thursdays, and we'd take some stuff home. We had a room already and everything. And she was born on March 14th, and April 21st, she passed away from SIDS in our bed. And I felt so guilty for so long, because I felt like I had something to do with that, because she was sleeping in a bed that was a little twin bed, and the girl I was with, Karina had colic real bad. So there's a thing where you lay the baby across the belly to belly, it helps the colic go away. When I woke up in the morning, she was laying between us and she wasn't breathing. So I think I blamed myself for that for a long time, and I think that's what spiraled me out of control into my meth addiction, because once again, I was 20-something years old, and I didn't know how to process my feelings. Remember, that 5-year-old boy didn't know how to process his feelings except with anger. And so I've never processed it the right way. I never had nobody to really talk to and process it. Nobody to show me how to be a man or how to take these things. And I don't know if you could ever teach anybody that. You could help somebody walk through it. That's what my hope is that somebody out there will hear this and say there's a better way than turning to drugs or alcohol. And so when somebody introduced me to methamphetamine, I was working at Miller Industries. I was making really good money. I was a welder now, things going good. But I had this thing in my mind that now I can start making dope and I can become a millionaire within a year, right? It's a pipe dream. Never happened. It never happened. And so that spiraled me out of control, and I was in and out of jail. Probably did 2 or 3 years in the county jails during that time. A lot of time on the streets, homeless, living in a car, or from house to house or couch to couch, whatever. It's just a very bad lifestyle. And it was from Indiana to Ohio to Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida. That was up 75 pretty much, a little bit on 74. And that was the lifestyle. I was like a transient, just from place to place. In 2010, I found myself in Polk County, Florida. Well, from 2007 to 2010. What had happened was that they made it so hard to manufacture drugs, but down there you can get it so cheap that you can just flip it and still keep your high and still keep going. And I've been with this girl for like 6 years. And she had run with me, run the roads like really hard. We were just like, running buddies, you know what I'm saying? And she was married to another man. She had a kid at home, and she just didn't want to. I mean, she was out running the streets with me. And one day I came home, and she had been in the trailer, and there was some other men in there. Things went sideways. I ended up beating her up and him up. They both went to the hospital. 14 days later, the police arrested me. And it was just a fugitive from justice warrant, and I was thinking of domestic violence is what it was going to be. But they wrote statements that said I had a knife in one hand and a pair of pliers in the other. So now I was looking at aggravated assault with a deadly weapon ×2. I went to go see my lawyer, and she had my record in front of me. And she said, Mr. Dees, because of the aggravated burglary, robbery, and kidnapping charge when you was 18 years old, you're probably going to get this run consecutive. You're looking at 30 years. And that's probably one of the darkest days in my life. I want you to imagine, have you ever seen Shawshank Redemption? If you ever see that movie, it's the same prison I was in when I started when I was 18 years old. I was 18 years old, I was 135 pounds, and I was in a cell, and they came by and they gave me a piece of paper in 1988 that told me my max out date was 2013. So I started living like I was never getting out of prison. So now, fast forward, I'm 40 years old, I'm in a jail, and my lawyer just handed me the statements and told me I was getting a 30-year sentence. I didn't want to live. No, I didn't want to live. So I'm thinking in my mind, where's the check out? And a guy named Samuel Clark, and you can put his name out there, I hope he hears this, Samuel Clark. He invited me to church that night. And based on places I've been and things I've done in my life, I didn't see myself as being, didn't really believe, not that I didn't believe in God, but I didn't believe God was for me. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like when you see people out here going through hard times and the lifestyle that we live, it's like, okay, God's just for some people, he's not for everybody. But that day I went to church with him, and I gave my life to the Lord, and it wasn't like a radical change, okay? It ain't like I went in like this broken man and came out with a 3-piece suit preaching the gospel. It took me about 3 or 4 years of going back, and then I did another 18 months in prison. I got delivered from the 30-year sentence, which is cool. I got extradited to Tampa, did some time there, then I got extradited back up here to Tennessee. In Tennessee, they have, in Bradley County, they have a pod called iPod. It's a faith-based pod. So they bring preachers in all day long. And you just read the Bible and stuff like that. And it was in there. So I started developing a relationship with the Lord. And after developing a relationship with the Lord, don't get me wrong, I'd get out there, and I didn't have nowhere to go but to the homeless shelter and try to start over. I don't know how hard you can imagine somebody who has nothing, and you're put into a neighborhood where people don't hire you within walking distance. You don't have a car. The fines don't quit. The child support don't quit. The fees don't quit. So all this is adding up, and it's hard to find work. So next thing you know, you just kind of lose hope, and you go back to what you know. At least it kills the pain for a while. Go to jail, sober up, and then, whatever. But eventually, I went to prison again for 18 months in Tennessee. And while I was in there was a door that opened to me to True Purpose Ministries in Maryville, Tennessee. And that's the pastor you're going to be talking to, Pastor Jeremy Graham. Please do it when he gets back. I think it'd be very powerful. Yes. But he's a very good, you'd sit with him and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's different. But he opened the door for me to come to True Purpose Ministries. And it's a 1-year-long program. I could have went to a 90-day program, a 60-day program, but I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm out there playing games. Like, I can't get it right. I need something long term. You open the door, I'll go. Well, Pastor Jeremy don't let violent people into his program because of the neighborhoods that we're in. They have, contracts with them. But I was honest with him about everything that I'd done, and he still accepted me into the program. I thought that was a big deal. And so I went in, and I don't think he realized how hard it was because He'll tell you he wanted to kick me out 1 week for every week I was there. You know what I'm saying? 52 weeks, there was one time a week he had me on his desk because I was in trouble. But what he didn't know, I don't think he knew the extent of the trauma. And so I'll give you an example real quick, okay? So when you leave a cup in the sink, because we're learning how to be obedient and have discipline, okay? So you make your bed every day, you do your own laundry, no laundry on the floor. If you drink a cup, you wash it and you put it up. You know, so we're learning discipline while we're there. So you get write-ups or infractions for rules infractions. So I got wrote up for a cup being in the sink, right? So now I'm in the office, they got a write-up on me. It's a 1-and-1, 1 week restriction, 1 week of extra duty. No big deal, right? Oh, no, but I'm going off. I'm mad. I'm irate. But that dude, da-da-da. Next thing you know, my blow-up turns into a 30 and 30. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so, because I didn't know how to process my feelings and emotions, right? Yeah. And so Pastor Jeremy gave me a place to be able to do that. And he had the patience to be able to see me where I'm at today. Mm-hmm. Today, I'm an ordained minister. I got a beautiful wife. I got a career. I got a home. These are things that I never had or thought I could have. After my addiction, after Karina passed, I just figured life was over. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, to me, anything good was going to happen was going to be taken away from me. Mm-hmm. But today, I live, my hope and my drive is to help other people come out of addiction. Mm-hmm. And I know that how I've done it was through the Lord Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And so I tried really hard to use every tool that I have to help. Look, I know what Jesus did for me, so I try to really push that hard. But the important part is trying to get somebody clean enough to make a really good conscious decision not to go back. And if we can offer places like that where they can come to a place of sobriety inside themselves and detox off the drugs, I think they'll make better decisions.
Sister here, I kind of want you to talk about from when you were separated to kind of when your relationship rebuilt back up. What was it like? Were you stopping in randomly when you were in Florida?
I think our paths crossed here and there. Like when I got out of prison, she was still in touch with my mom, so I'd run across her and stuff like that. She was married to a man named Dennis, and she seemed like she had it going on. Like they had the money, they had the houses, they had the cars. I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, right? But it seemed like she had her stuff together, but nobody really wanted to trust me or put their faith out. I mean, because over and over again, I've proven that I couldn't be, you know. And when I got on dope, I don't think that I never reached out to nobody. I reached out to my mom one time for help, and I didn't get the help I wanted or needed. And so I just kind of stayed away from all that, you know what I'm saying? But when I was at True Purpose Ministries, and when I got out, now she'll tell it different than I tell it. I thought she reached out to me, but I promise that, or no, she says that I reached out to her. I thought she had reached out to me, but the whole point was we connected on Facebook. Okay. And then she was like, hey, can we come visit you? And they got a cabin in Gatlinburg, and they brought my real father. That was crazy, crazy. But that was the beginning of a lot of healing, because my real dad, we never really got along. Mm-hmm. And there's some bad blood there from 2005 when I was down on the run from the law, and there was bad things that happened. Mm-hmm. And so in my mind, if I'd have been the person that I was, yeah, bring him. I got some things I want to tell him now that he ain't got the upper hand. And but I know I've been walking this Christian walk. And so when they brought him, he sat down in the corner, and he would watch us play cards, right? Never said a word. And I snuck out on the porch just to sit there to get some air. And I look over, he's standing there next to me. And he started to go into this spiel about being sorry. And I stopped him, and I said, no, we ain't going down that road. I said, you were dealt a hand of cards. You played it the best you could. I did my hand of cards, and I ain't no better. I played it the best that I could. I got to watch my dad go to church for the very first time. But he gave his life to the Lord, and I was beside his bed when he took his last breath. My mom died when I was in prison, so I didn't get a chance to say anything to her. Wish I would have. But with him, we had built a relationship since then to where the closest of all three of us. Like, she'll call for like spiritual advice. I'll call her for marriage advice because I really don't understand a lot about marriage still.
Can you talk about when you met your wife and kind of just...
Yes. I was in the program. We were not allowed to talk to women at any of the events or churches. You got rode up or got kicked out. We had a really strict rule because we wanted you to concentrate on your healing, which I get, And I was very obedient to that, man. I didn't look to the left nor to the right. I stayed very busy at everything that I did. And they put me with her to work in an event called Helping Hands at Real Revolution, where we reach out to the 6,000 kids in our community that are on a free or reduced lunch program. We provide shoes, haircuts, clothes. It's really good, great program. But she is over a department of it, and they put me underneath her. Well, I never thought, there's no way in the world. I mean, I never, nah, she's got a career. She ain't gonna want nothing to do with this, But we went to a singles event one time, and she was there. And it was after I was in fourth phase. I was allowed to date, and I went to a singles event for the church. And she showed up. And it was just on since then. It was like I knew that I knew, It was good stuff. I would like to say that if you come from a background of being from the orphanages, detention centers, and the prisons, and you've never really seen what it's like to be in a functional marriage, me and Kat got married after 60 days after our first date. That's not easy because there's a lot of emotions and a lot of things that we've had to learn really quick. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And she's been the brunt of a lot of me being, let me explain it this way. Remember when I told you I was fighting like a 5-year-old kid? Mm-hmm. Now I'm still fighting like a 13-year-old kid. But we're making progress. Kat's not from the lifestyle that I came from, so she's had to put up with a lot. Because just because you're saved or just because you're living a Christian life doesn't mean you don't have issues and things pop up. And learning how to live in the life that she's lived all her life has been hard for me. Communication especially is key. Communicating, because she could say some things from where she came from and it sounds disrespectful. And you ain't going to disrespect me like that. And I got to realize, yeah, you can.
If someone was listening to this across the country, have no hope, they hit their rock bottom similar to yours, what's something that you would want them to hear from you?
There was a preacher man that came into the jail. Two things. Preacher man that came and preached that night when Samuel Clark told me to come to the church, I was expecting to be condemned. I was expecting to be told that I was wrong. I'm going to hell for the way I'm living. But this man had been where I'd been. Because I could tell by his testimony, I could tell by the way he was talking. And he said, that you no longer have to live in the hell you've been living in. And I'm telling you out there, you no longer have to live in the hell you've been living in. And there's a man named Jesus Christ who came. He died on the cross for our sins, so you don't have to live in hell anymore. Mm-hmm. That would be my first thing. Because I didn't think Jesus was for me neither. But I would say give him a try, okay? Give him a try. But the second thing is I would say, is get you some accountability. Get you some accountability. And it can't be somebody that's using drugs cannot be your accountability. Somebody that's, it has to be somebody with some longevity. Get to an AA meeting, get to an NA meeting, get to CR, get into a program because that's an opportunity for you to save your life.
On the next episode of Echoes of Addiction, we sit down with Kimberly Williams, Steven Dees' sister, to explore what it was like growing up alongside him. Kimberly opens up about their childhood, the deep impact of addiction on their family, and how their relationship has evolved over time.